What were we waiting on? What are we doing here?
We have to do a podcast. Shh, be quiet. It's for that guy. He painted the bridge. That really short guy. Rhonda told us about him. That guy.
Oh, that guy who came up to me and he was trying to tell me about like how to tie knots and like he knew everything about boats and stuff.
Yeah. Him.
I hope it's not cheesy.
Well.
How's it going, guys?
Everything's good.
So today, before I introduce you guys, I just want to welcome everyone who's watching to Connected by Water. This is the first episode that we are rolling, producing, having of what turned into a huge project that took, I think, 2 years. We were talking about building this and making this happen, and it's like finally here. Today's the day, and we're just super honored to have you guys on as our first ever Connected by Water podcast guest. Without further ado, Vinnie LaSorsa, Sarah LaSorsa, Captain Vinnie LaSorsa from Freedom Fighter Outdoors. Thank you for being on. The only question you're required to answer on this show is, how are we connected by water?
Well, we're connected by water. Well, first I want to say thanks. Thanks for having us on. I want to tell you that it's special. This is a special year for FFO because it's our 5-year, which you know, you designed our 5-year logo. But being on your first podcast, you know a lot of really neat, cool people with great stories. So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be on your first podcast. It's pretty neat.
Stoked.
So we're connected by water. We're connected by water through fishing. And through fishing, we do the whole thing with taking the injured veterans fishing through Freedom Fighter Outdoors, and met you by you walking up to me at the Pompano Beach Holiday Boat Parade last year saying that you'd like to help, and you did exactly what you said and more. So
awesome. Yeah, no, I think when we talked about that, from our studio perspective, we're getting asked all the time to donate this and do that. And through our experience, we just realized that, it's better to really kind of just choose one group and focus on that. That's really the best way I think that you can make a difference, rather than, donating a print here and donating a print there. And you're really not really putting a dent in the whole thing. So Liz and I discussed that at length, taking the veteran fishing idea and just veterans in general was really a huge initiative, for us. It really is close to our hearts. And when we met you guys, there was just this whole synergy and this whole togetherness, and, we quickly became friends. And I think it just really worked for us. So those are the guys that I think that, you guys are doing it the right way, with the give back efforts and everything like that. So, from my perspective, it was just a great marriage just to, connect the dots there and just make it happen. So, we're super proud to be working with you guys, and, and we don't spread ourselves thin on that. It's we're all in with you guys. So I think that's really, how it works for both parties. So, I'm excited you guys are here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
super exciting.
So it's 5 years.
5 years.
So how's the last 5 years been for you?
5 years I feel like we've accomplished so much in 5 years, way more than we ever thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
We never thought we would be here with you. We never thought we'd be making T-shirts. I think last year was, the end of last year of 2018 was kind of when it all hit.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'd been doing this for, I would say, almost 10 years. And then 5 years ago, we decided to incorporate as FFO. And we had some support of board members in Lighthouse Point. And Greg Edwards was one of our biggest supporters. He threw us a cocktail party that kicked off what became FFO. And since then, people have gotten involved. But late last year, we had a woman an artist approach us about doing an art exhibit in New York City. And that became something that was traveling the East Coast.
An art exhibit?
Yeah, it was an art exhibit of our veterans, and it was black and white photos, life-size photos of them and their story that she hand wrote on their photos.
Get out of here.
And so
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, Susan Barron was the artist,
That's
artist.
Cool.
And she said, I want to try it. And then it developed into a coffee book. She made a coffee table book.
What?
Yeah. And so it now is still at the Army Navy Club in D.C. And there's talk that it's going to go to Tennessee. It's been in Miami. It's been in New York City and Chelsea, New York. And that was one of our big moments. And then some other things that occurred where we had Rhonda Bunker approach us about the Pompano Beach Lighthouse Point Boat Parade,
Right.
and making us FFO, the Grand Marshal of the parade, which was a huge moment for us because Lighthouse Point is where it all started.
Right.
So to have that support was big, and then that's where our introduction to you took place, and making the T-shirts, and it's kind of been surreal a little bit. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, and the focus that Vinnie and I have always had, and what we tell everybody that wants to come into FFO, is this is only about the veterans. This
Right.
is why we do it. We do it for the veterans. We do it to try to change lives for them. We try to help them. And, if we have to say no to somebody, we say no, but, in regards to a veteran, but, we do everything we can. When they ask us for help, we do all we can. And that's what the main focus is and what the goal
Tough
is.
saying no.
It is tough
I
saying
think,
no.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
we
I
haven't had to
experienced
say
that
no.
too.
Yeah.
It's like really hard saying no to people.
It is, yeah.
But sometimes you have to.
Yeah. So, and then earlier this year, we had a really cool thing happen in Pennsylvania. One of our board members, who's a volunteer, Brian Carpenter, approached a brewery, and, he was just hanging out there and talking, and they started asking about FFO, and they decided to create a beer called Tango Yankee, and it is literally an FFO beer can with our beer.
Really?
Yeah, so that since over the past year, I feel like things have started to really become bigger than what we ever thought FFO would be, but it's great, it's wonderful, it's a good thing, and we're excited what the future is going to bring and what more is going to happen, and it's a good time.
I think it's outstanding. I mean, I saw you guys coming from a mile away. I'm like, these guys got it together. I mean, a lot of time I get asked all the time to do different things for different people, with the artwork, with the donating of time, donating of actual prints, and different things like that. And a lot of times you got to kind of look people up and down and be like, sorry, you're just not, I don't think that you're going about it the right way. You know what I mean? And you don't say that to people, but you do kind of like pass that judgment against, and, but I looked at you guys and I'm like, man, these are, a couple of people that really got it together, really are doing it like for the real reason, the reason it should be done. And, kudos to you guys. Outstanding work.
We appreciate
on everything
it.
that you've achieved.
And we have a good team behind us. We call it our FFO family. Anybody that gets involved in FFO, we welcome them, and anybody who wants to help, we're all for it. It's about, like we've said, it's about the veterans. That's all it's about. So if somebody wants to come in and approach us and help for the veterans' sake, we're all ears. We're always open.
Yeah.
Nobody's got an ulterior motive or a self-gain agenda.
You find you get a lot of like other captains like just helping out all the time, or just like willing to just throw in their time? And what kind of events do you guys do that really would support like a captain coming in with their boat and saying, hey, I want to help?
So we do the four, we call it our 4 big events a year, because we do more events, but they're all smaller. Like we do, all of our hunting events are small, anywhere from 2 to 7 guys. But our 4 big events are February in Lighthouse Point, and then we do in April or May in Jensen Beach out of River Palm Cottages. Then we do June in Montauk, New York, and then we do November again out of Lighthouse Point, so a week of Veterans Day. Every one of those 4 big events I'm talking about, we do 24 to 26 veterans.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we do 5 to 6 boats so what you're asking about the captains is at those big events, lately, the last 2 years, we've had a waiting list of captains where, we've had guys who've been with us from the beginning, especially like, guys like Kevin Mafood, the Merritts put in the Caliban, their boat.
Yeah.
They've been with us since the beginning, but we've had a few times where we said, hey, do you mind sitting out so we can bring somebody else in who wants to get in? And it's funny because then it becomes like, no, I got to sit out. I don't want to sit out.
Yeah, right.
But it's a good problem to have.
It's almost,
cool.
These captains get addicted to doing it.
bet.
Mark Ransford, Greg Thomas, Kevin Mafood, Ed Colson got involved. There's been, I think Sean Norden got involved.
Sean's a good dude.
Yeah, and Scott Dennis, and it's almost like an addiction to them. They're like, no, I'm ready. Tell me when the next one is. I'm in.
Right.
So it's a good thing. And these captains mesh so well with the veterans. They are so good with, they just become friends. It's like they hit it off. It's just like a lifelong friendship. It's like, by the time we get to lunch, we start off with a kickoff dinner. The events begin with a kickoff dinner at the hotel the night before the event. The next morning, we go to Lighthouse Point Marina, Christian speakers on our board, and we go to Lighthouse Point Marina, and that's where all the boats meet. And Christian and Debbie provide breakfast for all the veterans. And by the time that the captains have breakfast with the veterans, by the time they're getting on the boat to go fish that day, it's like they've been friends for 20 years.
That's so cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're already making fun
Connected
of each other.
by water.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Yeah, that's like a true connected by water kind of moment. Not to overly brand the whole thing that we're doing here, but it really is, and that's why we named this that. Because when you go fishing with someone, it's a lot different than going out to a bar at night with someone. You can bond, you can have a good time, yeah, we partied, anything like that. When you go fishing with someone, there's a different level of camaraderie that happens. When you spend a full day on the water with somebody, you connect.
It's true.
It's like this weird thing that maybe it's the sea. There's all these mythical things that people always say about the ocean and what it does to people. But maybe there's something to be said about that. Because when you're out on the water with someone all day, especially when you've been fishing multiple times with someone, you really become better friends than you would have if you didn't go fishing together. That makes sense.
It's so true.
100%.
And that's why the whole connected by water thing is it makes sense to us. You know what I mean? Because when there's just something that comes over you and brings you together when you share that passion and that love.
Yeah, it's so true.
100%. When you said connected by water the first time, never really thought of that phrase and how you're connected in your own life. My own life, I started thinking about it from growing up. If I wasn't fortunate enough to have a dad that had a house on the water in Annapolis, and that's what got me catching bluefish and striped bass, what caused the obsession that I have. And then I started thinking about it. Literally every single one of my personal friends, every person that we have in FFO supports us. It's all through fishing, water, boating, living near the water, enjoying the water.
Even our sponsors.
Our sponsors.
Right.
I mean, everybody that we have. So I love that phrase because it's true in so many. It's true in my personal life. It's true in my work life.
It's so true. And even when I think, now that you're saying that, even when I think about reaching out, who else can we get on board? Who else can sponsor us? It's all associated with fishing or being out on the water or being out in the, always. So it's so true.
There's a lot of people in this industry that I find that, you always have the good and the bad, and there's some people that, I guess maybe in any industry is like that, but this industry, especially just because it's such a tight-knit group, everyone seems to be in everyone's business in some way, shape, or form. And I just try to let it, go roll right off my back a lot of times, but we are a tight-knit community that is really bound by this for better or for worse, and you just got to navigate it properly, just like any storm you see. But, bringing people together on this show, allowing people to have their platform, is really the goal of this, and just to it's all about community. It's all about whether it's salt, or whether it's lake, whether it's freshwater, offshore, inshore, you don't even have to fish. If you're a politician and you want to talk about clean water in the Everglades, and you're basically in our Everglades studio right now. I mean, we're a mile away. That's what it comes down to, for us. It's bringing that community onto a wider platform than just our little Pompano bubble, So you talked about Annapolis, right? So you were born there.
Yeah, born in New York. I was raised in Annapolis.
Born in New York, raised in Annapolis, right? We went out to dinner one night, and you told me this story. I'm sorry, I had maybe one too many glasses of wine, but all I remember was this is an amazing story. Are you willing to share that story with us today about your whole heritage and how the heck the LaSorsas ended up in the United States of America?
Yeah, that's a wild story. I've only told it a few times.
Yeah, I just thought it was. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think Mike's ever heard it. But
yeah. By the way, Mike's in the room here. Sorry, we don't have a set of headphones for you today, but
yeah, no, I really don't tell it that much.
And they got the little mini LaSorsa.
Yeah, I don't think. Anyway, I haven't told him many times, but it's a good story.
Yeah,
and it's something eventually I should put down on paper because
I always tell him he needs to write a book.
no,
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
just
Got
I
to.
was
For
thinking
sure.
just for nothing else, just
Like
for
this whole razor's edge moment,
Yeah.
like every time.
just
Yeah.
for generation, like for our kids
Our
or something
kids,
who
yeah.
wonder how they got here. It's a
Mhm.
good story, but yeah. So I guess I'll talk about my mom's side first.
Sure, whatever.
My
We got all day.
yeah, my okay, I guess I got to talk about my mom's parents, my grandparents. They were in their well, my grandfather was 30 years old. He ended up wanting to come to the U.S. Better medical care and everything else. He served over in Italy. My whole family heritage is from Italy, and they decide that they're going to get on an ocean liner and come to the U.S. And that ocean liner was the Andrea Doria, and the Andrea Doria, when they came over, got in the fog, got hit by the Stockholm. Andrea Doria ended up sinking. My mom and my grandmother, women and children on first. They ended up getting on a lifeboat. Got separated from my grandfather. They were separated for a little while. They lost everything. They had it was like the old school wooden trunk with all their stuff in it.
Mhm.
My mom's birth certificate, my grandparents' wedding pictures, everything literally is sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And that disaster kind of it changed their lives, because then when they got the settlement from the ocean liner company, from the Andrea Doria sinking, you get $5,500, and they turned that into buying a duplex in Astoria, Queens, in
What year was that?
1954.
1954. $5,500. It's a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, 56. 1956.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they ended up turning that into a success story,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of better words. You lose everything, but they turned it into a good story. Both my grandparents were hardworking people. My grandfather was in construction. My grandmother went to work she worked at a coat factory, and she worked for TWA at LaGuardia Airport, and they just they both had a great story. But so then on my dad's side too, my dad's family came over from Italy, and my dad could have, when my dad came over, when they got to Ellis Island, they could have easily, they listed him born as born in the U.S. because he was just an infant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if his life would have been different, and it probably would have been if he had to go through the different avenues to kind of not be, listed as born in the U.S., because he ended up becoming a Secret Service agent. And his story with becoming a Secret Service agent was that he went to go become an NYPD officer, and the Secret Service was hiring. And when they decided to hire, they took the top 2% from the big cities in the U.S. who did well in their exams and brought them in for an interview. The guys didn't even know that's what was happening. They just grabbed the top 2% of all the applicants. And in New York City,
Really?
Yeah. So he got grabbed, and he spoke Spanish, he spoke Italian,
Right.
and they were, the Secret Service has a lot of treasury fraud. So his first assignment, when they hired him, they sent him to Puerto Rico for a bunch of treasury fraud. And then shortly after that, he went on the presidential detail from Carter to Clinton. He was on the presidential detail. And that's how I ended up in Annapolis.
Okay.
Because he was working in D.C.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and my dad was gone all the time when I was a kid. He was, he's literally, he was probably gone more in a year than he was home. But when he was home, it was, he did a really good job at, we had a little 17 Aquasport. We'd go out
Right.
and we'd go
I
fishing.
remember those aqua sports, like the little
Yep.
teal sticker on the side.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then, I spent some time in North Carolina for a little while, Emerald Isle area. Everything I did as a kid, my dad always put us on the water. My dad was obsessed with the water, and that's how I am where I am. If my dad didn't do that, if I was landlocked, he didn't have an interest in fishing, I probably wouldn't have. But, well, that being said, that's kind of this crazy family success story that I have. And the interesting part is like now, I actually fished over the Andrea Doria a few times when we go to Nantucket with the boats over the
really?
summer. Yeah.
So it's that close to land?
Yeah. What is it? It's like 100 miles, 75 miles south of Nantucket.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it
Yeah.
was
We were
that
catching
close.
codfish over it, and I
Yeah.
texted my mom a few screenshots of the
Mm-hmm.
On your way
sonar.
on your way to the Flemish Cap?
Yeah. Texted her a few pictures of the sonar and said, there she is down at the bottom. But, yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it is a cool story.
So
Yeah.
before that, what they were in, was it Venezuela?
My dad went to Venezuela to go, my mom's family wasn't necessarily poor. My grandfather was just sick. He needed better medical care.
Okay.
My dad's side of the family, they didn't have a lot. So they came to the U.S. strictly to make some money. But on the way from Italy, they stopped in Venezuela, and there there was a lot of logging and lumber
Right.
going on there. And he stopped there and made some money before they came to New York.
Right.
And that's where my dad, that's where my dad was born. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So then they came. That's why he was an infant when.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crazy. Just crazy turn of events.
Right. So then they almost, just never happened. Like this LaSorsa clan and just like, with the sinking of the boat and cool.
Yeah.
And you, what's
I don't have any crazy stories
what's your
like
background?
that. But I was born and raised here in Fort Lauderdale, and my mom was I had a single mom growing up, and she did a good job of getting me out on the water. We went to the Keys a lot. Actually, I have a lot of memories of like lobstering, and she was always into going to the beach, and my younger siblings are really into. My younger brother was always really into the water. And she tried. She did work a lot, but when she could, she had us down to the Keys a lot. She had us at the beach a lot. She got into fishing for a while, but my grandfather, who I was close with growing up, he passed away when I was 16. He had served, and I think that was one of our connections when we met. Was just the being outdoors, hunting, fishing, that whole sort of thing, and a dedication to our veterans.
Right.
So I don't have any crazy stories like Vinnie does, it's enough to write a book, but yeah, I mean, I'm born and raised here, grew up close by.
Right on. So when you guys were thinking about starting FFO, like, was that just like kind of like a natural progression of like just like helping veterans out, like taking like, how did that kind of come to fruition, when you were developing the whole program?
So I wonder if it's more of a long-winded answer than you're shooting for, but I guess I could tell you how it completely started. In 2009, we started, and we were working with Wounded Warrior Project.
Okay.
And Sarah and I met in 2011. And when Sarah and I met, the events changed a lot because Sarah started putting her touch on things. She started packing gift bags for the guys. And, I was just having these guys show up the night before. They were staying in the hotel.
Right.
And then I'd take them fishing, and they were going back that afternoon or that night. There wasn't, I'd take them, it wasn't
a lot of pomp and circumstance around it.
No, it wasn't like an event. It was just like, come on, we're going fishing. And that was it. But when Sarah, when I met Sarah and I met, we were talking about how we can make it a little bigger. And that was right around the same time where I was getting a lot of messages from friends saying, I want to help and I want to do it. Let me do it with my boat. And then I started saying, instead of getting 5 guys, I'll get 10. Instead of getting 10, I'll get 15. And we'll take 4 or 5 out a piece.
Just kind of happened organically.
100%. Yeah.
That's how it's right, though. In my mind, it's just like things.
We didn't force anything. We just kind of said, let's see who would want to get involved. Let's see how many more boats would want to. If somebody says no, they say no. Let's just ask.
Yeah,
it's not going to hurt, And then I feel like it just kind of did its thing, and people wanted to get it. Like Vinnie said, people were asking to get involved, so we don't say no if people ask to get involved.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, you have a big boat, you can fit 6 guys. Let's get 6 guys out here. But we had just had Joey, so he was a couple months old at the time, and Vinnie said.
Joe was 6 days old. Whenever
6 days?
Yeah. And
I was doodling a picture of a logo.
Yeah. I think I was like, I don't know. We have a newborn, Ella was starting elementary school. I was like, I don't know. That's a lot. This is a lot to take. A new business when you have a newborn is a lot to take on.
Right.
But it was so, important to him that I was like, you know what? Let's see where it goes. If we have to stop it, then we'll figure that out at the time. We'll do what we have to do. But let's give it a try and see how it goes. I just didn't know personally how much work would be involved behind the scenes.
Yeah, had you have known then.
Right. But I mean, it's just it's running a business,
Sure.
That's what it is.
Yep.
But for us, luckily, it's more than a business. It's giving back, and it's it's kind of like a luxury business, you could say. But it's that's how it kind of kicked off. As Vinnie was like, I have this idea, I have this vision. And I said, my first thoughts were, well, what would we name it? And, we have to have a logo, and we have to do this, like all the little things.
Right.
And so Vinnie literally sat down at our kitchen table one night, and he's just drawing pictures. And, if you go on our website and you look at our logo, or go on our social media and look at our logo, the logo with the ducks, the sport fish boat, what else is on there? The antlers.
The antlers, yeah.
Vinnie drew that. That's.
It wasn't that good, but it
was good. I still have the original drawing. Actually, I'll put it up on social media. I should for a 5-year. But he drew it, and then we were kind of toiling with names. What do we do with names? What do we do with names? And we were just thinking. I think the name thing took a couple days to really, And I said, what about let's kind of stay off, the Wounded Warrior path. Let's try to not go with that name, because at that time, the Wounded Warrior name was just blowing up. It was everywhere, and people were piggybacking off of Wounded Warrior Project and doing all these great things with veterans and starting these organizations. And so I said, I had this thought, what about Freedom Fighter? And Vinnie was like, yeah, I kind of like that. And somehow we incorporated the outdoors into it, and it all just kind of developed in the condo at the time. We were living in a condo, and we just dreamt it up in our heads and dreamt it up, and it just became a thing, and that's it. It really just took off. And over time, the first 2 years were a little bit of a struggle, I feel like. We did really good, and then, I mean, I don't know how.
First 2 years was tough.
The first 2 years was tough.
We experienced that too, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, I think it was more so, getting our name out there, getting people to really take us seriously and see what we were about. And
you're learning your processes too.
And we're still learning. We still have a lot to learn. 5 years is an accomplishment, but it's still so young. And, it just kind of took off. And luckily we have so much, like you said, we have community support. And that's the biggest. If you can have your community behind you, then you can grow in other places. And we have our community behind us. And we have, like we said, we have Brian Carpenter in Pennsylvania. We have Joe Snyder in Pennsylvania. Both are veterans, very involved on our board and on our outreach. And they focus 100% of their time in growing us in different areas of the country. And that's becoming a thing. So that's huge for us. And, but we've learned that the biggest support that you can have is your local community. That's the best and biggest thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
I mean, you're a local.
We're in a very similar position as you guys are. We're in our 5th year as well.
Yeah.
And of being full time, but we also were doing it for years before we incorporated and everything like that. I had a day job. Sean was born 2 months premature, and we always said after our second kid, we're gonna take the leap, and 3 months later, I'm quitting my day job, and we started this place, and it's kind of a scary leap. And the first 2 years, it's daunting. But you get past that hump, and you build your network, and you build your community, and eventually things start flowing if you really stay focused on what your goals are. I think that's really important. And you're nothing without the people around you. I'll be the first to admit that. I mean, there's people in this room, there's people in the rooms next door to me. People that aren't even in town right now that, are just key players and making everything happen for us. So I can totally relate to what you're saying.
You're in the same boat.
Yeah.
It was such similar situation.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I think the relationship works too.
Yeah.
I want to touch on one person, right, that you mentioned earlier, Rhonda Bunker, that did a lot for the community with the holiday parade.
Yes.
Last year, and you guys were the lead
Grand Marshal.
The Grand Marshal, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty cool event last year. Now, you guys brought veterans in.
Yeah, we brought. Gosh, I can't remember how many. I want to say 9.
I was going to say, I was going to say 8.
9 or 10.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
it was 8, 9, or 10 guys
came in.
They all got to ride on the Coast Guard boat and lead the parade.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And what was so special about that, too, is our events, I don't know where FFO is going to take, where it's going to go in the future. But that event was really special to us, too, because we got to invite their whole family. Their wives got to come, their girlfriends, their kids. Rhonda said, let them bring everybody. And the veterans themselves got to ride on the Coast Guard boats. We had a couple boats in the boat parade that they were able to bring. They brought the wives and the children on. Some of the wives and children want to stay back at the marina and watch the boat parade from land. So it was really special because that was like the first event we could say that families were involved. And, you know, we hope to get somewhere in the future where we can have their families involved. I think it makes a difference sometimes with veterans.
I think so.
It opens them up a little more to say, these are my kids, this is my wife, this is my husband, whatever it may be. But that was really, really special to us. And Rhonda did such a good job, not to take over. I know you're still talking, but not to take. Rhonda did a good job at just, you know, again, we hit it off with her. She fit in so well with the veterans. They liked her. She liked them. And that's a big part of FFO is, you know, just meshing well with everybody. And I think, like Vinnie said, and like you said, it was for the right reasons.
Right.
You know, it was in it. Her heart was in it. She's very supportive of our veterans, you know, not just for FFO, veterans in general. And, you know, her heart is in the right place when it comes to, you know, spreading the word, raising awareness, raising money, things like that. And that was really, really special to us.
She's got a real talent of connecting the right people with the right
Yes.
people. I mean, I've told her that's really like her true talent is like she just sees connections between people and she's able to, I mean, that's how we got introduced to each other. And she was so dead on. She's like, you need to talk to FFO.
Yes.
You need to talk to these people. You know, like you guys are so in line with what you guys are all trying to achieve here. Because, you know, giving back is a huge part of our studio. Like we really believe in that. Like I'm not just like some capitalist, just kind of like trying to like money. It's like, yeah, we want to be profitable, but you know, at the end of the day, you want to feel like you're creating something that's special, that, you know, it's meaningful, and that really means a lot more to just you know, I'm supporting my family through this business and the whole thing like that. And it's like, you want your kids to look at your business one day and be like, wow, mom and dad really built something cool, you know? And that's really, I think, what it's all about. Not just being like, yeah, mom and dad have a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's like, okay.
I agree.
That's not everything.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, Vinnie, we're so busy, you know, we don't talk sometimes as much as we'd like, but, you know, I have those thoughts a lot. Like, and once in a while we do talk about, you know, what's going to happen with FFO one day. I hope the kids really love it enough that they'll keep it going and they'll stay connected with it and involved in it. And, you know, it is important to us that our kids are you know, seeing what we do and they're proud of what we do. It is important to us. And like you said, it's so important to have that connection with your children. And, you know, we got Ella involved at 5 years old at such a young age. And we had people that
He's trying to hide over there.
We had people saying, oh, you have your kid around, you know, these veterans. And we're like, yeah, we do. Yeah. It's important to us that our kids see, you know, what this country is about, you know, how things work in this country, how, you know, what veterans and their families, the sacrifices they make for us, you know, strangers that they don't even know. It's very important to us that our kids are very involved. Joey's been, I mean, I've been doing this with Joey since I was pregnant, you know. Right. Joey's been going, I've been carrying to events since he was, you know, 4 months old.
So funny hearing you say that, because at the bridge thing,
yeah,
like, I don't know if you noticed, did you see Sienna? When she was setting up her tent, 8 years old, and she just walks in like she owns the show, and she just starts setting up. She starts talking to customers, and she's getting people to sign her
I saw
email list and everything like that. It's like, I remember at one point, I like looked at her, and she was talking to somebody. I don't know who it was at the table, and someone was pulling me away. Some city officials like, hey, you got to meet this person. And I looked back at the booth, and I saw that Sienna, my 8-year-old daughter, was talking to someone like. And the thought that came into my head was, all right, cool, Sienna's there. She's got this. And then I started walking. I'm like, wait, did I just say that? My 8-year-old daughter's got this? You know, but yeah, it's cool.
When we approached your booth, she was standing there with the email form saying, would you like to sign the email? I mean, she's all in, you know, and it's surreal for you. And it makes you proud that you've developed something that your child is now proud of dad. And she's got your back, you know, she's got your back. And, you know, Ella's now getting older and involved in service hours and things like that. And she's, you know, she's super involved. She helps me at home. You know, I'll be at home and I'll be putting brochures and packets and koozies and packets. And she'll just come and sit down and, you know, do the routine with me and put stickers on things. I mean, you know, it's a good feeling.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling that, you know, you've developed something that, you know, can make your kids super proud of you.
For sure.
And it makes you proud to know how involved they are with it. You know, it goes both ways for them and for you.
It really does. I mean, and you know, some days you want to bring the kids into the studio or like into the business, and they can be around. And it's just really just like, that's the whole reason that you're doing it. You just want to, like, you know, own your own deal, you know, and just like, this is your world. And if you can have people come into your world too and just enjoy it as well, I mean, it's meaningful.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So I wanted to show, you guys brought a video here too. I think it's important to show like what you guys do with, you know, taking these guys fishing. And there was one veteran in particular I think we wanted to feature today. And I guess you can probably speak to that a little bit better, but I think the video that we're going to show really gives a good example of FFO in action.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, Drew Offerdahl, who's a local guy, Dad owned Offerdahls, Drew Offerdahl, and his friend Sean Wilkes. They approached us about helping us make a video, and they did it for, you know, just on their own.
Yeah.
So
this is it here.
Yeah.
This is what, February 2018.
Yeah, this is our Lighthouse Point event.
Okay.
And I think they featured, that's Derek Butler's service dog, and yeah, that's Mike Burke. He's one of our outreach officers, and if you want, we'll tell you more about the outreach program. Sure. But you know, basically Bird Jones was in this video and talks about his involvement with FFO, and I think we met Bird a year prior to this video being done.
Through Mike Burke.
Through Mike Burke. And Bird was just one of those people. You know, he showed up, Mike brought him to an event. He said, I got a guy, and I want to introduce you to him. He's Bird Jones. And he brought Bird on, and it just, you know, we just hit it off with Bird. He's a good guy. He's a great veteran. You know, he's, you know, he just talks about how much FFO means to him. And it's interesting. I love when these videos happen and it's kind of going on when we don't know what's going on, because you'll hear these veterans say things in the video that maybe they don't say normally to our faces, or we don't really get to have a heart-to-heart with them at an event. Yeah. So it's nice to hear.
Oh, there's Bird there.
Other veterans, they'll be there for you as a support group to help you heal. I ended up losing my leg on December 9th, 2006, about 4-something in the morning, a roadside bomb. I've always joked about it. If you do not talk about it, it just stays there, and it's harder for you to deal with it.
And now they have a support system, and it's awesome because it makes guys come back out of their shell and readjust.
God, that's crazy. 4 a.m. Imagine that. Like, you know,
these guys gave up their lives and everything that they have for every one of us. You know, they'll never be normal again, but they want to be normal. They want to fish and they want to go have fun and they want to do things, but they don't have the means, you know, and that's why FFO is who they are and why FFO needs your support. You know, they're 100% to the veteran. You know, they pay to have the veterans fly into their events. They cover their motel, they cover their food, they cover everything, and they take nothing. So what we do at Danco is every event, we bring product, whether it's hats or shirts or pliers or bait knives or fillet knives or whatever. Every veteran that's involved in Freedom Fighter Outdoors will benefit from whatever you do for them. And they are so grateful and so appreciative of everything that they get.
You know, if you're somebody that just wants to donate,
that's
if
awesome.
You have a restaurant that you want to, you know, help us out.
That's cool too. I know Danco Pliers does a lot.
We have
you
great,
guys too.
we have,
and that's a great business.
Yeah, we have wonderful sponsors that really are behind us. And, you know, I mean, if you go on our website, we have a dedicated page with all of our sponsors on it with their logos. You can click the link. It'll take you to their website. You know, I'm not going to name them all because I don't want to forget anybody, but, but we have so many sponsors that, you know, we email them and say, we've got an event coming up. You know, I just want to let you know, this is how many people are coming. This is how many veterans are attending. They even send enough for captains and mates, you know, enough for their gift bags. Awesome. And it's just, you know, to have the support of big name companies is huge for us. It's huge.
I was looking at Bird in that video, and I had the pleasure of meeting him at one of our events that we had last year. Really cool guy, very down to earth, you know, super appreciative of everything that you guys do and everything that the people around you do. And it just feels so good, like seeing a video like that, knowing like if it wasn't for you guys, that dude's probably just sitting on his butt in Orlando watching TV, right? And this gets him out of the house, and this gets him going, and he's earned it.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. You know what I mean? You're talking about like 4 a.m., you know, at 3 a.m. when he was sleeping, he had his leg. You know, and these are the sacrifices that these people give to us, you know, and, you know, I'm getting a little like choked up here, but we're growing up in a generation where like maybe people don't really appreciate that as much anymore. You know what I mean? But it's important that people pull together and make that like something that people are aware of, you know, and not only just raising awareness, you know, but actually taking action on it. So my hat's off to you guys.
No, I appreciate
Fantastic stuff.
That brings up something that I think is not to talk about ourselves or say that, that what we do is so great, but one of the things that we did at FFO and we decided that we were going to do it. Our generation, I do agree with you. There's a lot of maybe, you know, a little bit younger than us. They don't seem to understand the sacrifices that these guys actually go through. A lot of them who pass by our events and they see these guys standing there, they kind of do that and like, whoa. I don't know if it might be the first time they've ever really considered it or thought about it or seen it with their own eyes. But what got us thinking about it is how poorly back during Vietnam, how those guys were treated when they got back. And I don't know about it firsthand. I'm too young to understand it, but I hear all the stories. At FFO, we've been fortunate enough to have a few guys in their late 90s or early, like 100-year-old guys come from World War II and come to the events.
Really?
Yeah, we've had guys from Korean War, Vietnam. We don't say it's just Iraq and Afghanistan. It's any war. And the other thing that we don't just say is, you know, our criteria when somebody writes us an email is you got to be 30% disabled or a Purple Heart recipient to apply to come on an event. That being said, we're really lenient. And if, say one of our guys, he's horribly injured and he says, hey, my corpsman saved my life. He's not injured, but can he come? Yes.
Right.
100%. Yeah. A lot of these battle buddies is what we call them.
Okay.
If it was somebody that was in their Humvee when they got blown up, even though he's not disabled by the VA, that they can come.
Right.
So our initial criteria before we really get to know them and they send us their little bio about what they've done and we get their DD-214 and look at it with our own eyes, our initial criteria to apply is 30% disabled or Purple Heart recipient. But we don't say it's just Iraq or Afghanistan or a recent war. It's any war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting because we have a few guys who are from the Vietnam era who they were more quiet and more of like hermits than a lot of these young guys. And it took them a day or two to come out. And then by day 3, they're just razzing and making fun of these young guys. You don't know what we did when we were in there.
Right?
It's great.
That's what I was going to say. It was like, is there kind of like a competition, a camaraderie competition going on there?
Yeah, nobody had it harder than the Vietnam guys, and that's what they love telling these young guys.
Yeah.
MREs, we didn't eat for 3 days. You know what I mean? Like and all those stories. But it's really, I think that camaraderie is really good. And the other great thing that we were saying, Sarah was touching on before about how the captains become best friends with the veterans and they become friendly. The thing that connects everybody after the event too is you see on Facebook or Instagram, everybody started following each other.
Right.
Right after the event, captains, mates, the owners of the boats, people who own the restaurant, everybody just friend requested each other. Now, these veterans really feel like they matter.
Right.
If all these people are reaching out to them, they would, friend requesting them and now they're commenting on every picture they put up with their kid or whatever. I think that's a big part of it. Is it just goes beyond the event. Now they feel like they matter to another 30 people.
Right.
They come on another event. Now they meet another 30 people.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I'm probably on Facebook more than you in the sense of, like I have my personal page and then because that's how I run FFO's Facebook, and you don't realize it until you go through your feed and you see a veteran talking to a sponsor and a sponsor talking to a volunteer. And, you go through and you're like, wow, all these people wouldn't be talking to each other right now if it wasn't for FFO.
Right.
These people there are hundreds of mutual friends now just from one event. These Scott Dennis is razzing Bird and Bird is razzing Sky. And, it's like all these people are all connected now just from one single fishing event, just one event. And it's so important because, like Vinnie said, it doesn't, and this is what our outreach, we have our outreach, which we'll talk about, but our outreach, we have them speak at every event. We kind of took 2019 for Vinnie and I to take kind of a back step at events and let outreach talk more to the group.
We'd love to have them on too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Whenever
sure.
you're ready, we'll bring them in. The thing about that is, I think Ken normally says, Ken Weiner, one of our outreach officers, he'll say, it doesn't end here. We don't just put you back on the plane and you go home. It's not going to stop here. We are now forever connected to you, and you are forever connected to us. And, it's 2:00 in the morning and you don't have anybody to talk to, go to Facebook, because now you're friends with 50 new people through FFO, and you can call one of us and we'll answer the phone. So that knowing that you don't just come on our event, we don't just go fishing, we don't just give you some lunch and then you go home for the night and then you just talk about this event for a couple weeks to your friends, and it doesn't stop there. We have a FFO. We just started this year a private FFO veterans page. Any veteran that has attended an FFO event gets welcomed into the page. So they can post
cool.
about
so
their
it's not open to
family.
pub. That's great.
Yeah,
it's
no
very
volunteers,
private.
no sponsors. It's just the
Nothing.
veterans
It's
that
just,
were on an event.
Oh, that's good.
If you are a veteran and you attended an event, you are in that group. And we have guys coming on, guys, girls, whoever, coming on our events. We bring them onto the page. I monitor the page, and they can post about their kid caught a goldfish, at the local fair, and they post about it. You want to share something, you found a funny meme about anything, you go there and you share it, and it's constant. It's, there's somebody posting about it every day. You're having a bad day, you go in, you post about it. All these phone numbers start coming onto your feed. Call me. So it doesn't just stop at our events. You are forever intertwined with FFO, if you want to be. You're forever intertwined, and you now have a whole new community of support with you.
Which is even more important, I think, for people to understand why it's important to help you guys out, to keep it going. It's just things like that stay alive for these guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the good thing about the veterans page is as you can imagine, it makes total sense, is that we noticed a lot at 10:30 at night, 11:30 at night, somebody will write a message, anybody still up, and then somebody will message back, yeah, call me, and they just want to talk,
Nice.
And which they probably wouldn't do if it was open public. You know what I mean? It gives them an avenue to stay candid and not feel like they're being judged, which is a great thing. Because, at night, that's when a lot of these guys have trouble sleeping. Or
they have a bad dream.
They get haunted. They get
yeah.
haunted by, they wake up with bad dreams, and then, instead of deciding to go start drinking, they'll call somebody else, and you talk to somebody who knows exactly what you're talking about, which, because like Sarah and I can't relate to
that's the thing
war
I was
stories.
going to say when she talked about, like, we talked about the camaraderie once you go fishing with someone, blah, you're bonded and all that thing, right? So I know that if you put a guy or a girl that I've been fishing with 7 years ago into this room, like, we'll be like, hey, you know what I mean? We went fishing, we could talk. I can only imagine how those guys are, but also having that empathetic, sympathetic background of what they went through added on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, man.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we developed outreach, is because we have Freedom Fighter Outdoors outreach. And that's one of the reasons we developed it. And we handpick veterans. These veterans aren't always, walk into a room and have it all together. Some of our veterans, some of our outreach officers, we won't name names or anything like that, but we have a group text, and we'll get text in the middle of the night that Vinnie are on. Someone, please call me, please call me, please call me. Our outreach officers don't always have it all together, and that's okay. That's we're all human. And, I've noticed since we've had outreach, more veterans actually asking for help. It's the middle of the night. Can you someone please call me? Whereas before, and maybe it's the Facebook page, maybe it's the outreach, maybe it's the veterans having outreach every night. We have every night or day, before a kickoff dinner or kickoff lunch or something, we'll have a veteran speak about, or an outreach officer speak about their story, how they got impacted by FFO, how they got involved, what makes them stay involved. And I think that helps the other veterans relate more so than Vinnie and I getting up and saying, thanks for coming, you know, where they have somebody who is in their shoes, who has hardships, who has really good days and really, really bad days. So I think that, you know, as we're growing and this outreach is becoming more open and involved, I see more veterans asking for help. And I think it's because they can now relate to these people involved with FFO who have served and who have seen things that that Vinnie and I haven't seen, you know. And you can say you relate, but you know, if you haven't been there on the lines, then you don't know. And I think that the outreach the program really helps. I think it helps our guys on outreach. It gives them a purpose. And, you know, we wish we could bring everybody on outreach, and hopefully we'll be at that point. But, you know, for now we have that Facebook page where, you know, if you've come on an event, you know, you have to come on an event to be on that veteran page. And luckily right now, I think I have 23 new people waiting to come on the page. So that's a whole event right there of new veterans. But, you know, I think that it really helps. I think having those guys connect really help.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you have veterans in your group that have graduated into the outreach, becoming outreach people?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that how
Sure.
that happens? Or
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna explain a little bit how outreach happened when we started FFO. It was just me and Sarah fielding like some of the late night texts from guys. You know, hey, we got an argument with my wife, or you know, this is what I got going on, and you know, she can't understand what I'm going through, and it, you know, between my work life, us having a family, I ended up saying to Sarah, I said, you know, I said I was talking to Ken Weiner, one of our veterans that we're very friendly with. Ken was involved with us before we made FFO. I'd say, you know, Ken's always saying, you know, give these guys my number, I'll talk to them. And then Sarah and I were like, well, wait a second, what if we keep like the same acronym of FFO, but call it, instead of Freedom Outdoors, say Freedom Fighter Outreach. Pick 4, 5, 6 guys, give them a polo shirt that says Freedom Fighter Outreach. They get business cards that says Freedom Fighter Outreach. They get a little backpack with a notebook or whatever. Their job is now, because every one of our outreach guys are, well, not every one of them, but most of them are you know, have heavy disability, meaning that some of them, they don't work. So this gives them a purpose. You know, now they have a job with us. They got to find new veterans, bring new veterans in, because there's a lot of guys out there that are just hiding. Like, not when I say hiding, I mean like they're sitting at home playing Xbox.
Right.
And if they don't have a friend of a friend who knows of them, I don't know how we'd ever find these guys, but that's what these guys do. They go out, talk to their, you know, battle buddies, for lack of a better word, and find these guys. But anyway,
Real grassroots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. These outreach guys now are the guys who stay in touch and field or I should say, they become, I don't want to say therapists, but they become therapeutic, sounding board for our new veterans. And the other thing we do with the outreach guys, say we got 5 boats, we have 5 outreach guys in every event. The night before at dinner, the first night when we do our welcome dinner, we call up a captain, come up in front of everybody, and we name his 3, 4, 5 veterans that are coming with them. They all come up, we take a group photo, hand them all a gift bag. But in each one of those groups is 1 outreach guy per boat. Those guys have been there, they know it. Most of the time they know the captain, and it makes the other 3 or 4 guys they're fishing with immediately feel comfortable, because, you know,
outstanding.
Yeah, that's
a great process.
Yeah, it is great. And now that outreach guy in the morning, you know, you're getting up at 5, 6 in the morning. Everybody might be a little groggy coming out. All the new veterans know they just got to find their outreach guy in the morning, and that's who they're going with. He brings them to the boat. It works great, but that's what our outreach program is they're in charge of keeping track of these guys. You know, the guys that we've already had come through the process, and making sure that you know, that they build a friendship and stay with these guys, because they can relate better than Sarah and I can. So that's what I was going to say.
We want them to feel good. There's a lot of veterans out there, because I'm more on the side of, I'm the one who fields all the emails and talks to all these veterans before they come on an event. And, you know, they're just nervous. You know, they don't know what to expect.
That's where all they should be. I mean,
they don't know what they don't know if we're going to parade them around town. They don't. So it's a process getting a veteran to an event. You know, I have a lot of veterans last minute not even get on the plane. You know,
we have an attrition rate of about 3 to 5 guys in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get cold feet last minute and say they don't want to fly. I don't want to get on a train. I don't know if I can leave my dog. I don't know if I can leave my wife or kids.
Or just pure anxiety.
Pure-
I don't know what
exactly.
to
Yeah,
expect.
maybe they don't want to step into the thought process again. And
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's why it's important that we have outreach there to say,
Hey, come
listen,
on, man.
it's not what
Yeah.
you think it is. It's just come. If you want to leave early, you can leave early. If you want to not come fishing the next day, we'll figure that out. But let's just come. And honestly, I mean, by the end of the dinner, some of these new vets, they're still quiet, they're still reserved. I'm telling you though, by the next day, it is. I mean, we've had this conversation with Mike, who's in the room. He's like, I can't believe the next day how different every single human being in the whole event is. It's like it's a whole new human being, and it just takes getting there and relate and seeing that you're not the only one going through this. You're not the only person that has bad days. We all have bad days, and especially when you're a veteran, I think it might feel like you're having way worse days than the average person, the average civilian. And we totally get that. We understand that. And that's why we have outreach there to guide you. We just started a new process. I know Vinnie talked about the boats where we have 2 veterans per hotel room. We room each new veteran with an outreach officer so that when they walk in, okay, I'm so-and-so with outreach and I'm here and this is what we're here, this is what we're about. Let's go downstairs. Let's go meet the group that's already here. Let's go have a drink at the bar. Let's go have a water on the beach, whatever it may be. But they're there in the room to welcome them into FFO. And that was really good for Montauk this year.
Yeah, it wasn't every new veteran. It was every
Pretty much,
single veteran
yeah.
who came not knowing anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Remember
I think
that
there was
average
only
guy?
there was only
It was every
2.
single veteran that came in cold,
Cold
didn't
feet,
know
yeah.
anybody. We put them, and especially you kind of get a vibe for these guys as Sarah's emailing them, just through email, through text,
You
through
could
the phone
tell.
call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they were real cold, and like worried about it, and there was anxiety, we would make sure that they were roomed with an outreach guy.
And some of them tell me, I'm getting nervous. I don't know this person I'm rooming with, and I'll have to have a conversation and say, I can assure you that I know this person personally. Like I've known them for years, and you're in good hands, and it's going to be fine. If you're uncomfortable, we'll talk about it after dinner. Let's just try to get through. Therapy, I guess, through email, but. Some of them will tell you, or some of them will say, I have a friend who served, like you said, I have a friend who served. Could I bring him with me? And if that makes him feel a little more comfortable rooming with his friend, then I'm going to go ahead and do that just to ease them and
That's
get
great
into
because
it.
it's the right perspective. You know what I mean? That's why you're doing it, right? So
Yeah.
these guys can enrich themselves again and,
Yeah.
and be more comfortable. And I know we talk a lot about the name of the show is Connected by Water, and we talk about water and all the stuff like that, but this isn't all outdoors friendly show. How much hunting do you guys get into now? Is it mostly fishing for the most part?
We do 3 or 4 small hunting trips. When I say small, it's just by nature it's smaller because it's more personal in the hunting trips.
It's a little different. The hunting aspect is a little different than the fishing
Yeah.
aspect. So
every guy needs a guide.
Right.
So the hunting trips are small. The only bigger hunting trips we do is when Brian Carpenter in Pennsylvania, he does a pheasant hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be 7, 8, 9 guys, and there'll only be 2 guides because you know how that is with the pheasant hunt. They all walk the field. They got the dogs. We can put more guys, but when we've done the deer hunts or we do the hog hunts, it's 2 or 3 guys on a hunt. Just because it's got to be. It's every guy needs the attention, or not attention, but you need to have a guide with them, and to take a lot of land to spread out all those kind of people. So when these guys when people call us about donating a hunt, it's either a guide who works on a property for an owner, or it's the owner who say, I'm interested in doing this. I can accommodate 2, 3, 4 guys.
Brian Carpenter does a hog hunt every year in Georgia, and it's funny because the outfitter's name is Squeal Team 6, and they're really
That's
good.
awesome.
Yeah, they're great. They're really good about. I want to say 3 or 4 vets. I'll touch base with Brian.
I think it was 4.
It was 3
4
or 4,
including Brian.
and there was a guide with each one, and they hit it off.
Squeal
Team
Team
6.
6.
Yeah, they're
That's
hilarious.
hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's
but
hilarious.
they hit it off with Brian, and Brian drives down from Pennsylvania down to Georgia, and
Cool.
so that's it. I think Brian heads up a lot of. We've had a handful of hunts over the past few years. It's It's not huge, you know. Our main forte is the fishing. But if somebody wanted to send us an email and say, "Hey, I live here. I'd love to have a couple of vets come hunt," we're open. We'll find you vets. That's not a
So
problem.
they just need to contact you through your website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
That's it.
yep.
It
Give
was
us a
Freedom
call.
Fighter Outdoor.
Yeah, freedomfighterOutdoors.org.
.org.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
we could do that. But yeah.
Nice.
So, but the fishing is, we also do a few smaller fishing events. Like, for example, I'll tell you this other thing that just happened this year. We had so much happen last year.
Freshwater.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was going to get at. We
Yeah,
do-
okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought you.
in the Lighthouse Point event out here, we've been tacking on an extra day to the event, and now
Right.
they go offshore the first day and freshwater the second day.
Right.
And there's a guy, Jose Carbonelli, works over at Merritt. That's how I met him. He works over at Merritt's, and he's a bass guide. He's got a 20-foot Stratus, and he's all into being a bass guide, but he belongs to a bass club. He pitched it to his bass club. Hey, would everybody like to take a veteran or two?
Mhm.
And he got 12 boats. Maybe more than that. I think I did 14 boats, but we put 1 or 2 guys on each boat for the second day doing it. All the guys involved said, I want to do it again. So now it's a thing. The other thing Jose did is he pledged to take 24 veterans out in a year, on his own time. So he's taking 2 guys out, 2 guys out a month,
Mhm.
and then taking them to everything from Lake Ida to Loxahatchee to
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's
so,
really great.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people dismiss that too about the area that we live in. I mean, we're right here. We're in the Everglades studio, basically. Like, we're out west. Like, all things considered, right? It's really only 10 miles to the beach, or 8 miles, or however long it is. It's really not that far, and that's such a unique part about the area that we live in, is that there's really kind of technically water on both sides, right? But there's such a vast array of things to be had, out there. And you and I have talked about the gator hunts that we've been on and different things like that. And just the bass fishing over there is phenomenal. It's one of the best places in the world to bass fish, is right behind us. And you can catch a sailfish and mutton snapper and bass and tarpon and snook, like, technically all in the same day, which I don't think there's many places in the world like that.
No.
If any.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think about it. Well, meaning like, just South Florida in general, like, what, Jensen, Jupiter, or whatever, like down to the Keys, like that whole stretch is just, phenomenal.
Yeah, and
Phenomenal.
Jose wrapped his boat. Jose got he did an event with FFO, really liked what was going on at our events, really wanted to get more involved, and he ended up buying a bass boat, and he wrapped the bass boat, was it with TK Custom Canvas? He wrapped the bass boat with all these FFO logos and FFO sponsors, and that's part of a pledge. The pledge he got, a donor actually said, I want to work with you on this pledge. I want you to take these veterans out a month. And Jose's been doing it. He does a good job. And the good thing about Jose, again, is he meshes so well with the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
He says sometimes they just don't want to talk and they want to sit there, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool. They just want to, they just want to be in the open air. And then if they want to talk, Jose's there to talk. And, he meshes well with everybody. And we're kind of getting into some things that we have some ideas for FFO. Like, we've thought about starting kind of a captain's program and doing something like Jose does and get more involved. And do you want to take a vet out a month and something like that? So we have a lot of projects and ideas we're working towards. But he's been kind of the main reason why we're having those thoughts, is because he does such a good job.
Yeah.
He's at Merritt.
Yeah, he runs the haul out, the travel lift.
So I can segue into, speaking of Merritt,
Yeah.
you got a big project going on right now.
Yeah,
You're almost done with.
almost done. They got 2 weeks left.
2 weeks left. Right.
Yeah.
We don't have a name for it yet.
Don't have a name for it. I hope you got the logo ready to go, though.
It's ready. It's teed up, man. We're just ready to go type in the name. We're done. So you want to talk about the boat?
Yeah. Actually, do you care if can I talk about how
Talk about whatever you want, man.
Let me segue into this, because I think it's an important part of the story of FFO and how we got started. In 2009, when we did the first fishing trip, and I hope I'm not going to bore anybody, but I feel like it's a
No,
good
I
story.
don't think you're. I think you're. I mean, this is why we're here. We're here.
I
to
like
just
telling stories.
Lay it all on the table, man.
I like telling stories. So
Yeah.
this is a good
I
I
story.
like hearing stories.
This
That's why we started the podcast.
Vinny's new
You know?
job is podcasting.
All right.
So he's
That's
with
it.
you every
There
day.
we go.
All right.
That's it. You can just. That's going to be Vinny's chair right there. We're going to put your
I
name
like
just like Norm. It's just going to say Vinny, right? And when
gonna
you
get a
walk in the
mug.
room, you're going to walk in the room, and everyone's going to be like Vinny, just like they did with Norman. Cheers.
I'm in.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right.
And next time we'll have beer on the table. I'm sorry we didn't have beer on the table today. We just have water
Water's
and
good.
coffee. So,
All right, I'm good.
all right.
All right, so I'm gonna start this. I'll
ahead.
make it quick, but it's a good story of how we started. In 2009. All right, let me start with this. Let me tell you how FFO, how we got started with the veterans was, I thought about going in the service. I didn't end up going in the service because last minute I got the job with Jimmy Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
When I say last minute, there was a Marine recruiter named Captain Pages who, when he heard about when he heard about what I was doing, he said, "No, just you should go do that." And I was kind of shocked that he wasn't trying to pull me in, and didn't think much about it.
It's funny how life's made up like those little decision moments,
100%.
right? And if that dude would have been like, "Man, you can always get a job later on," that would have changed the course of your life
100%.
forever. Right?
If he would have guilted me
Yeah.
into it, it would be totally
Yeah.
different. Lets me go. Don't think all 100% of my focus goes into this great new job opportunity that I got. My youngest brother, he's 4 years younger than me. He ends up going in the Marine Corps, and through him being in the Marine Corps, I got to, it hits home a lot different than I was. I was very aware of service and military and country because my dad taught me that as a kid. But when it's your own family member and he's telling you stories of guys that you met at his wedding or guys that you met at his house of what they're going through, what they're seeing, it changes your whole perspective. So then I started to feel guilty. And it was the real first time that I really started to feel guilty. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I'm getting paid to do a hobby, essentially,
Right.
And these guys are dodging bullets and losing limbs. It's just
we're at the show. I'm painting fish for a living, for crying out loud.
right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. I hear you.
You sit there and say, how does this world is weird,
Right.
And it doesn't make sense how some people, you fall into like a dream job like I got, or even you got. I mean, you got a dream job too. I mean, it's like, and then you think about these guys. But anyway, so what happens, I end up going online and figure out what I could do to give back. And I'm thinking maybe I can try to take a couple of these guys fishing. It was on my own boat. And I end up coming across Wounded Warrior Project. And I thought at the time Wounded Warrior Project was like a government run, like a piece of the government. That's what I thought. I didn't do a whole lot. I just saw the website. It says you can donate money, you can donate a service. So I write an email. I'm willing to take a couple of guys fishing out of South Florida. Here's my number. 2 weeks later, there's an Army veteran named John Pruden who still works for Wounded Warrior Project. He's still one of our great friends. I end up getting a call from him, and I start telling him a little about it. And he's like, "Oh, that's really awesome. I'll bring down a couple guys. What day are you thinking?" we kind of set something on the schedule. I think it was a couple weeks out. And then one of my best friends, Tyler Andresen, also worked for Jimmy. He was running Jimmy's yacht at the time. Tyler was Jimmy's fishing captain before me, and then he moved up.
Okay.
And Tyler is my fleet captain, Spider Andresen, not my fleet captain, Jimmy's fleet captain's.
Right.
Spider's my boss, our fleet captain's son. So Tyler says to me, he says, "Oh, that's awesome. You're doing that." He says, "Did you tell Jimmy?" I said, "No." He says, Jimmy's a big veteran supporter.
Mm-hmm.
He says, like the whole soldier ride concert he does for free, donates all back to the vets. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you should say something. So I was like, I don't say anything. Tyler tells Spider, and Spider says, if you don't say something to him, I'm going to say something. So Spider writes Jimmy an email, copies me, and says, "This is what Vinny's doing." Jimmy replies back and says, "You don't take your boat. Grab a couple more guys, make them more comfortable, take my boat." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's
Nice.
awesome."
Mm-hmm.
I called John Pruden back from Wounded Warrior Project. "Hey, John, by the way, I actually work for Jimmy Buffett, and we're going to take his boat." He pauses, and I don't know if he believes. I asked him
It's
to
a
this day.
showstopper. It's a
I asked him
showstopper
this
when
day.
you
I said,
drop
"Did
that
you
on
believe
people."
me?" And he goes,
Yeah.
"I kind of did because I didn't think you'd say something like it. Just it was too crazy
It
to
was
say.
so crazy.
It was so
that
crazy
it,
to say.
it
I
had to
kind
be
of
true.
believed you."
Yeah.
And so, long story short, John comes down with 3 other veterans, and I remember that morning they drove from Gainesville. John picked up the guys on the way down from Gainesville. The last stop he picked up a guy was Port St. Lucie, and they drove. They left like 2. They didn't spend the night. This was our first deal. They got at my house at like 6 a.m. They roll out of the van. 3 of them are missing legs, and that's when I was like, "Whoa, this is real!"
Yeah,
like when you see 3 guys wearing shorts, missing legs, huge smiles on their faces, but I was like, "Wow." They're like, "All right," and then this is real, and I kind of got a little emotional for a second, and I was like, "Wow, all right." Anyway, They get on the boat, and we had a phenomenal day. We caught, this was off of Boca. This is off San Remo.
Mhm.
We didn't get started. We didn't end up getting out there till like 8:15. And Tyler came with me. That was the other important part of this trip. Tyler ends up coming on the trip with me. And we caught 3 blackfin tunas. I don't remember how many kingfish, 6, 7, 8 kingfish, a couple mahi over 15 pounds, and a double of yellowfin tunas that were 55 pounds.
How deep were you?
105 feet.
Nice.
Sitting there with the kites up, fishing 4 lines.
Beautiful.
I mean, and now it's 11:15, and we were like, we're done. Let's go in.
Right.
I come back in, and people at the marina saw, the catch, and a lot of the guys at the marina were like, oh, you just left here, 3.5 hours ago. Somehow somebody talked to Sun Sentinel, and Steve Waters wrote an article.
Steve's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He really is a good dude.
He did a great job writing an article. And then from that article, it made everybody very proud. Jimmy was proud. Spider was proud. Me and Tyler were proud. And right at that moment, some people did start reaching out to me saying, hey, if you ever do this again, I'd love to be involved. But that was the first ever trip. And I know you understand fishing, and if anybody's listening that doesn't understand fishing, that kind of day, or not, I should say doesn't understand fishing, but doesn't know what kind of a day that is off South Florida, it's
rare.
Unheard of, almost. Like, it's very rare,
Very rare.
And for that to happen with those guys that morning, it almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
it was, what do they call that? Providence?
Yeah.
Right? Divine intervention?
Divine intervention.
Yeah.
That was the first thing JB said, too. It was like, or my boss said, it's like almost meant to be. And then he said, do this whenever you want. If I'm not using the boat, do it as much as you want. That was how this all started. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So anyway, going back now, I can tell you about the boat. It merits.
I want to interject one thing though that maybe you might not be focusing too much on is just obviously shout out to Jimmy Buffett, but the guy does a lot more than people realize, and that he doesn't want to take credit for, that he doesn't want in the spotlight. If only people knew like the half of it, they'd probably be putting a statue of the guy up somewhere.
100%.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, and he never, I mean,
He's so humble,
he always
doesn't
wants
want
to
talk
stay
about
out of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are behind us at my company, or not my company, but Jimmy's company, that we get inundated with Margaritaville stuff for all the gift bags. They don't want any attention. They don't care if we talk about it on social media.
And the other thing, real quick too, not to interrupt, is not this past summer, this last June 2018, Vinnie was out with Mr. B on the boat, and we were all in Montauk at Rick's, having Rick's Krabby Cafe in Montauk donates the full dinner for the kickoff party every year. Donates the entire dinner.
It was our first night dinner, the welcome dinner.
It was our welcome dinner, our kickoff dinner, we call it. And Vinnie, Mr. B says, "Oh, it's tonight," and tells Vinnie, "Pull me up. I'm gonna go greet each veteran." And Ken Weiner,
really,
Ken Weiner came up to me. The picture's on Facebook. It's on Facebook if anybody wants to see it. Ken Weiner came up to me and said, "I got to tell you something, Sarah. I don't know another celebrity that would have had Vinnie drop him off on the next dock over and walk right to their car and drive away. He came over, shook every single one of our hands, stayed for a few minutes, took a few pictures. He took individual pictures with I don't know how many veterans.
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them. And then, he had to get on his way eventually and left, but he did that. And, Ken was so blown away that a celebrity didn't just turn around and walk the other way.
Right.
He walked into the crowd, walked into the group, and showed his support. Yeah.
That's why.
And it was amazing. Everybody was just so thankful for it, for him just doing that, just getting a picture with him.
Yeah.
And Jimmy supporting me right off the bat has created so much legitimacy to what we are doing, because if I have his support, there's been a lot of people who don't know me, but just assume because if I have his support, this is something that, is real and maybe they should look into. Like, we get a lot of, well, for example, like, Jimmy was really tied in with Garmin and all these companies that, those were his relationships, but now they're, our relationships with FFO, because, if he's supporting us, they're supporting us.
The endorsements help, but not to take away from the efforts that you guys have made and make on a daily basis, though, just to be clear. You know what I mean? The endorsements help, but a lot, what's making the business is, also.
Yeah.
everything that we've talked about up until this point.
Right.
You know, so for sure. So the boat.
The boat, yes. Thanks for keeping me on track. So the latest build that we're doing is we have a 42 Freeman hull.
Mhm.
It's got quad Yamahas on it. Freeman sent us the hull, bare bones, just the hull and deck, and the motors hanging on it. And we brought it to Merritt Boat Works, and we're building a pilot house, 42 Freeman, and we have the
It's
first
the talk
part.
of the town.
Yeah, it is definitely talking about it. The thing's got
No
a lot
doubt
of
about
a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And the talk of social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it literally has a Merritt house on a 42 Freeman.
Mm.
We got air conditioning, we got heat, we got satellite Wi-Fi, we got TV, we have
It's looking great.
we got everything you can imagine in a Unreal fishing machine, an Unreal
Mhm.
fishing platform. It's going to be fast. It rides well. It's got a whole 800 gallons of fuel. It's going to do a lot of things that we, because we had the Rybovich boat. The Rybovich was our main fishing boat before this, and not knocking Rybovich at all, but it didn't have the speed or
Mhm.
or that one we had did not have the speed or the range that this boat will have.
Well, it's a different platform.
Totally different platform.
Completely, yeah.
Totally, it's not even apples to apple. It's not even close.
That's what I mean. It's like,
Yeah. So we can't even compare the two. So
Right.
this is going to do a lot of things that are going to check off marks on Jimmy's bucket list. We'll be able to go to canyons that we wouldn't have run to otherwise, and we're hoping to do like a George's Bank trip and do all these awesome
Sure.
things that we weren't able to do before, and we'll do it in comfort.
And working with Roy on that's got to be, like, I'm sure, like, you guys are getting, like, the royal treatment because he's just phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
Roy's-
the whole Merritt family is just great, too. I'm sure they're doing you guys right.
They are. We're very fortunate that Roy loves this project because it's different. It's something different.
Mhm.
It's not what they always do. And because we got, all of his attention, he's putting so much effort into it between giving us his best guys to do certain parts of the task and making sure that we're staying on schedule, because he stuck the boat right outside of his office. He looks at the boat every time he walks out of his office.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's super proud of it.
He is very proud of it.
And plus, too, to work with Freeman, it's like one of the most sought after. I can't call it a center console necessarily. I guess I can, but it's one of the most sought after boats on the market right now. Like 4-year waiting list or something.
I think it's
something
I think it might be down to 2.5
down
years,
to
maybe.
2.5 now. Yeah, I'm sure. Aren't they expanding now? I think their operations to kind of work on putting it in that time frame.
Yeah, they're going to try to lower the time frame. They're trying to buy a bigger facility.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a great boat.
I shouldn't say trying. I think they've secured the facility, but I think they got to build it.
Yeah, they're beautiful boats.
Working with them has been great. There's Billy. The funny thing about Billy is I don't think Billy realizes how much he's changed the boating industry with what he created there. I really don't think it doesn't seem like he does. When you talk to him, he's very humble.
Right.
He's really quiet.
Yeah.
He does.
That's good though. It keeps the product straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the one thing that, and when Freeman came out with a video called The Freeman Story, and it's about, the American-made story, how it started in his garage with the support of his wife, Sally, and that's how they started. I showed Jimmy that video after we already had one. We already had our little Freeman. But when their video came out, Jimmy can relate so much to that because he's an American-made story too.
Sure.
Started singing in bars in Key West, and one thing, and I don't want to. I'll quote Jimmy because I think it's such a cool quote that he said. He said, in life, there's not many people who have put their thumb on the pulse of exactly what America wants. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about Billy.
Right.
Because he nailed it. This is like, he created something that once everybody saw it, that's what they wanted. But the irony in that is Jimmy did the same thing with his music, at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Margaritaville and everything.
Another quote from Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. He's got a million good ones.
In my yearbook, you always do like a senior quote. Mine was "Good times and riches and son of a bitches." I've seen more than I can recall. that was the quote in my yearbook. Are you excited to fish on that boat or what?
I can't wait.
Yeah, he's ready.
Real quick too, I just want to say, because we were talking about Roy, Roy is super supportive of the vets and FFO.
Sure.
And we're super thankful for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's another company that's local and worldwide at the same time,
Yeah.
For sure.
Great.
So I wanted to, since we're on the topic, I have to tell this story, okay? Because it's my favorite Jimmy Buffett story. right? If you guys will indulge me like for a minute, okay? So I'm in high school, right? And, you know, I really hope that Mr. Buffett gets to hear this story because I think it's kind of funny. So he calls like an impromptu concert because the manatee numbers had come out that day. And I think we were down to like 60 something manatees on the census. And he was in the Bahamas at the time. I may be just paraphrasing this whole, you know, series, but this is the general gist of it. And he goes, you know what? That's too low. I'm going to do a concert, free concert. At the time, it was the Sunrise Musical Theater, which is no longer at this point, right? And me and my buddy, I think I was a junior in high school, right? Maybe a senior. Right? Me and my buddy Andy scrambled. We got tickets, right? And we were going to see Jimmy Buffett. We ended up getting like third row. It's like, my God, you know, he just walked up and it was just like a lamp on the stage and an acoustic guitar. It was just it. No coral reefers, just Jimmy, right? Doing an acoustic set. It was pretty much almost taking requests. Like it was not like a set show. All the money was going into the manatee research and let's get those numbers up and everything like that. That was the coolest thing, right? Of course, I'm in high school. Of course, we're going to see Jimmy Buffett. Probably had one too many, right? So backtracking a little bit, my buddy Andy and I would drive to school every morning, right? We went to Gibbons right here. It was probably about a 25-minute drive to school every morning. So for the longest time, I had the cassette tape of You Had to Be There, right? Which was a live show that he did at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia. It was like, I don't know, from like late 70s, early 80s, right? One of the songs on there was God's Own Drunk. Every morning when Andy walked into my car, I'd pick him up from his house. I would press play. He goes, oh, you know, friends, let me tell you, it wasn't no ordinary still. Like this whole song, like, oh no, right? And we would just like ritually like listen to that every morning, right? So when it came time to see Jimmy Buffett, it was just Jimmy. It was just a coral reefers. We're like, we got to make him do it. We got to make him do it, right? So a couple of times we'd yell, God's Own Drunk, God's Own Drunk. And we did like 2 or 3 songs in a row. And finally he turned to us and he goes, all right. I remember my first beer too. And he played it. And I was like, man, that was like my greatest Jimmy Buffett moment. So anyway, thanks for indulging me on that story. So we were like word for word, like singing it with him and the whole thing like that. And it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway.
Too funny.
Listen, guys, I'm going to end it on that. I want to really thank you guys for coming in here. You know, and I also just want to say that this podcast, I might have touched on it earlier, been a long time coming. It's one of those projects that over time, we're like, yeah, we're going to do a little bit of it here. We're going to do a little bit of the planning here. How are we really going to integrate it into the business? And then we had the whole bridge project, which really like took the studio over. But you know, we always sort of focus like, no, we're going to do this podcast. I just want to do it just because I'm so locked into the studio all the time that I'm kind of like, I can't get out to the water as much as I want to, as much as I used to. If I go, well, I'm going to bring the water to me, right? And just have people come in. The community around this, about what we do, to me is just so important. I mean, that's really why at the end of the day you do it. It's just to be a part of the community, to do what you love, to follow your passion and follow your dreams. I couldn't think of a better way to start this off than having the both of you guys on. And you guys, we really appreciate you sitting in the corner. I'm sorry we didn't have headphones for you today. But you know, it's really means a lot to me, and my family means a lot to Liz. You know, and everyone involved here in the Vandy and Jenny and John over there is over there. You know, hey, what's up? Shout out to John. You didn't even get to talk on your mic today. Can you say something?
No, I didn't get to talk.
There he is.
I don't talk very much, but
Hopefully we didn't bore you today.
So that's John.
Not at all.
That's John over there in the corner making it all happen. So I want to thank John. He's worked real hard with us getting this going, getting all the sound equipment going. We wanted, like, I'm the kind of guy that I don't do anything unless I do it right. And I wasn't going to just strap a couple, you know, laptop mics up and just do some, you know, podcasts. I don't believe in working like that. It's kind of like a mantra of the studio. It's always quality, whether we're printing something or producing something and painting something, designing something. It's always quality. I don't care if it takes longer. Sorry to some of my customers out there that we do take a long time for, but when you do, at the end of the day, get the product, it's right. So I believe you guys are the same way, right? Like-minded in that respect. Like when you deliver to your veterans, it's right. at the end of the day, and it means a lot, and it's worth it. So I am honored that you guys have come on for our first ever of what we feel are going to be thousands of podcasts. So thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Anything you guys want to end with?
No, this is special to us.
Yeah,
It's another first for us, and we're thankful you chose us.
Yeah, you kidding me? Come on.
We really
So
appreciate it.
I want to have you on more. You know,
Absolutely.
and we're gonna have another headphone and mic set up for you next time.
We'll bring our
I
veterans
promise.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%. Bring the veterans in. Bring the outreach in.
Yeah.
You know, I know we do a bunch of stuff together all the time, so I'm sure we're going to be doing more together. So, thank you for coming in. So, you want to say something? I'm okay. You're okay? All right. Let it be known on record. She said I'm okay.
She's a teenager.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Cool. Connected by Water. Check it out.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.